Let's be real. Most people spend their lives fighting an invisible battle, not with the world, but with themselves. They walk around smiling on the outside while doubting every step they take on the inside. And that self-doubt, it becomes the silent killer of dreams. The reason you never apply, the reason you stay in toxic places, the reason you never feel good enough. But here's what most people don't realize. Self-love and confidence aren't luxuries, they're necessities. They're not something you magically wake up with. They are skills you build step by step, day by day. So today, we're going to dismantle the lies that have kept you stuck and rebuild your mindset from the inside out. You're going to learn how to stop doubting yourself, start believing again, and walk into the life you actually deserve to live. Self-love is not about being self-absorbed. It's not arrogance. It's not vanity. It's not walking around thinking you're better than anyone else. It's about recognizing that you matter. It's about knowing in your bones that your feelings, your voice, your dreams, and your boundaries are important. And more than that, it's about treating yourself like you would someone you truly respect. Because at the end of the day, if you don't learn to love and respect yourself, you will constantly seek that love and respect from people who are not qualified to give it to you. When you don't have self-love, you compromise, you bend too far, you stay too long. You say yes when everything inside you is screaming no. You chase people who don't see your worth because you haven't seen it yourself. That's the painful truth a lot of people avoid. The way you allow yourself to be treated is a mirror of how you treat yourself internally. You accept less when you believe you are less. And the more you neglect yourself, the more you tolerate what's unacceptable. Self-love is the emotional foundation that everything else is built on. If your foundation is weak, it doesn't matter how great your goals are, your inner world will collapse under the pressure of external demands. That's why so many high-achieving people still feel miserable. They accomplish everything on paper, but deep down, they're hollow. They never built that inner core of self-worth. And when you don't love yourself, even your victories feel temporary, like you're still trying to earn something that's never coming. The way to shift this isn't by waiting until you feel worthy. It's by choosing to act like you are, especially on the days you don't believe it. That means speaking kindly to yourself even when you fail. It means letting go of perfectionism and learning to forgive yourself. It means understanding that self-love isn't a reward for success. It's the fuel that drives it. Because when you truly love yourself, you don't need external validation to know you're enough. You don't need someone else's permission to take up space. You don't rely on praise or attention to feel valuable. You become your own source of power. People confuse self-love with comfort, but real self-love is not about staying in your comfort zone. It's about pushing yourself toward growth because you believe you deserve a better life. It's about holding yourself accountable, not out of shame, but out of compassion. You stop making excuses. You stop blaming others. You stop waiting for someone to rescue you. You look in the mirror and say, "It's on me. I've got to do this for me." That's self-love. That's strength. And let's be honest, loving yourself isn't easy, especially if you've spent most of your life being criticized, rejected, or made to feel like you weren't enough. Maybe people taught you that your needs were too much, that your dreams were unrealistic, that you had to shrink, silence, or sacrifice who you are to be accepted. So now, when you try to stand tall, it feels wrong. But that discomfort, that's just old programming. It's not truth. It's residue. And the only way to break that cycle is to rewrite the narrative with new actions. Start small. Wake up and speak something kind to yourself. Set one boundary and actually stick to it. Choose a goal that's just for you, not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, just because it matters to you. Begin listening to your own voice above the noise. You don't need to fix everything overnight, but you do need to start showing up like you matter. because once you do, your entire life begins to shift. People will notice the change too. Some will celebrate it. Others might push back, especially if they were benefiting from your lack of self-worth. That's part of the journey. But as you begin to love yourself, your energy changes. Your boundaries change. Your choices change. You stop chasing and you start attracting. You stop clinging and you start standing. You realize you're not desperate for attention. You're hungry for alignment. And that's when you know you're finally becoming who you were always meant to be. Self-love is the beginning of everything. Your confidence, your clarity, your relationships, your purpose. It all starts with how you treat yourself. So stop waiting. You're not too broken. You're not too late. You're not too far gone. You're one decision away from changing everything. The decision to finally love yourself like your life depends on it, because it does. Confidence isn't something you're born with, it's something you build through action. That's a truth most people never hear growing up. We're taught to admire confident people, we're told to be more confident, we're expected to perform like confidence just shows up when we need it. But here's the thing. No one is born confident. Every confident person you've ever seen, every powerful speaker, every bold leader, every strong voice in the room, they earned that confidence by showing up for themselves, by doing things that were uncomfortable, by moving forward even when they were scared. Confidence is a byproduct of courage, and courage is not the absence of fear, it's action in the presence of fear. You don't magically feel ready and then act. You act first, and the readiness shows up later. It's backwards from how most people think. Most people sit around waiting to feel confident before they do the hard thing, before they raise their hand, before they apply, before they start the project. But waiting for confidence is a trap. Confidence doesn't come first, action does. Confidence follows effort, consistency, repetition. Think about a baby learning to walk. They don't sit on the floor thinking, I'll wait until I'm confident to take a step. No, they stand up, they fall down, they wobble, they try again. And with every attempt, their body learns, their brain adapts, their muscles strengthen. That's how confidence grows. It's earned through motion. You're no different. You gain confidence in speaking up by speaking up. You gain confidence in leadership by leading. You gain confidence in yourself by doing things that remind you you can count on yourself. Confidence is built in the small moments. It's in the everyday decisions. It's in keeping a promise to get up on time even when you don't feel like it. It's in choosing to push forward when quitting would be easier. It's in practicing that skill for 10 more minutes when no one is watching. These little acts compound. They become evidence. And the more evidence you create, the more your brain starts to shift from, I'm not good enough, to I can do this. But here's what gets in the way for most people, the fear of failure. We tie our confidence to the outcome. If we win, we feel great. If we fail, we retreat. But real confidence isn't built on winning. It's built on showing up, on trying, on risking failure and doing it anyway. Confidence means you're willing to fall and get back up. It means you trust yourself not to be perfect, but to persist. And every time you get back up, your self-belief gets stronger. Another trap people fall into is comparison. You scroll through social media, you see someone crushing it, and you think, why am I not like that? But what you're seeing is the highlight reel. You're not seeing the 10 years of work behind that success. You're not seeing the self-doubt they overcame. Comparison kills confidence because it shifts your focus from progress to perfection. And perfection is a myth. The goal isn't to be perfect. The goal is to be brave enough to try, to fail, to learn, and to try again. That's where confidence lives. The truth is you already have what it takes. You just haven't proven it to yourself yet. That's your job now, to stop waiting and start doing, to move before you're ready, to speak even when your voice shakes, to walk into the room and act like you belong, because you do. And every time you take that leap, you're rewiring your brain. You're building the neural pathway that says, I'm capable. That's neuroscience. Repetition creates belief. Action creates identity. You might think, but I've never been a confident person. And I'd say, so what? That doesn't mean you can't become one. Your past doesn't get to define your future unless you let it. Who you were is not who you have to stay. Confidence can be learned. It can be built at any age, in any circumstance, by anyone who is willing to show up for themselves. It doesn't matter how many times you've failed before. It matters what you choose to do now. Confidence starts with one step, then another, and another. Let's not forget this. The world reflects back to you the energy you project. If you walk into a room unsure, hesitant, apologizing for your existence, people pick up on that. But if you walk in with certainty, even if you're faking it at first, people respond differently. They respect you more. They listen closer. And the best part, eventually that fake it energy becomes real, because confidence, when practiced, becomes part of who you are. It becomes your default, your new standard. So stop waiting, stop doubting, stop telling yourself you're not ready, not good enough, not like those people. Those people were once just like you. Unsure, scared, inexperienced. The only difference is they took the leap, and you can too. Confidence isn't a destination, it's a decision, one you make again and again. With every step you take forward, you're becoming the kind of person who believes in themselves. And once you believe, there's no limit to what you can do. Doubt grows in silence, but belief grows in motion. That one truth can change everything, because most people think the way to build confidence is to sit in a room, think harder, visualize better, or wait until they feel ready. But the truth is, you can think all day long and still get nowhere. You can analyze your worth, rehearse what you'd say, plan every move, and still stay stuck. That's because doubt feeds off inaction. The longer you sit still, the louder that voice gets. The more you hesitate, the more your brain fills in the blanks with fear. You start imagining worst-case scenarios, picturing failure, rejection, embarrassment. And soon, you're paralyzed by thoughts that aren't even real. Doubt doesn't just show up out of nowhere. It thrives in your moments of stillness, hesitation, and indecision. You sit on an idea for too long and your brain starts convincing you why it won't work. You pause before speaking your truth and suddenly it tells you, what if they judge you? You put off the thing you want most, and your mind whispers, maybe you're not ready. That spiral doesn't come from your lack of potential, it comes from your lack of movement, because action is how you turn the volume down on doubt. When you do something, anything, your mind no longer has time to invent stories. It's too busy keeping up with the reality you're creating. It doesn't have to be a big move. You don't need to change your whole life overnight. You just need to start, send the message, show up for the meeting, raise your hand, speak your opinion, sign up for the thing that scares you. Take one step. That one step tells your brain, hey, I'm not stuck. I'm capable. I'm doing this. And once your brain starts seeing proof, the fear gets quieter, the self-doubt shrinks, because now it has real evidence to work with. Evidence that you can show up and survive, that you can act without having it all figured out, that you can do hard things and still be okay. You don't build belief through thinking, you build belief through doing. Every action you take becomes a vote for the kind of person you want to be. You want to be brave? Take brave action. You want to be disciplined? Do the thing even when you don't feel like it. You want to believe in yourself? Start showing up in a way that earns your own respect. Because the only way you'll ever trust yourself is by watching yourself follow through. Not once, but consistently. Waiting to feel confident before you act is like waiting to get strong before you go to the gym. It doesn't work that way. You build it by going in weak. going in scared, going in unsure, and letting the process shape you. The fear doesn't mean stop, it means grow. The nerves don't mean you're not ready. They mean you're about to stretch into something new. And that stretch, that's how you expand your identity. That's how you start to believe new things about yourself. Not from reading it in a book, not from hearing it in a podcast, but from stepping into your life and showing yourself what's possible. Let's get real. There's never going to be a perfect moment where all the fear goes away. There will never be a magical sign that says, now you're ready. That's not how growth works. Growth is messy, it's uncomfortable, and most of the time it feels like you're walking into the unknown blindfolded. But that's exactly where the magic happens. Not in the comfort zone, not in the plan, but in the doing. Because when you act, you learn. You learn what you're capable of. You learn what works. You learn that most of what you were afraid of was just a story. And here's what's wild. The more you act, the more your identity shifts. You're no longer someone who hesitates. You become someone who shows up. You're no longer the person who waits for permission. You become the person who gives themselves permission. And that shift, that's where belief starts to take root. Because belief isn't a feeling, it's a pattern. It's built in repetition. You don't need to believe in yourself to act. But if you act enough, the belief will come. If you want to kill doubt, you have to stop feeding it. Stop giving it space to grow by sitting in silence. Stop giving it power by avoiding action. Start doing the things that scare you. Start making moves before you're ready. Start saying yes to the uncomfortable. That's how you prove to yourself that doubt doesn't define you. Action does. So today, don't wait for the confidence. Don't wait for the clarity. Just move. Take one step. And watch how quickly your belief catches up. Because when you move, the doubt loses its grip, and that's when everything begins to change. Negative self-talk is a habit, not a truth. Most people don't even realize they're doing it. It's so automatic, so deeply ingrained that it just runs in the background like an app you forgot to close. You make a mistake instantly, I'm such an idiot. You see someone else succeed right away, I could never do that. You get rejected. Of course I did, I'm not good enough. These aren't harmless thoughts. They're shaping how you see yourself, how you show up, and what you believe you're capable of. The problem is that this kind of internal dialogue doesn't come from logic, it comes from repetition. Somewhere along the way, you absorbed those beliefs. Maybe it came from criticism you heard growing up. Maybe it was one comment from someone who didn't even matter, but it landed hard and never left. Or maybe it was a series of little moments that made you question your worth, each one adding another brick to the wall of self-doubt. And eventually, the voice of negativity wasn't outside anymore, it was coming from you. Here's what you need to understand. Just because you think something doesn't make it true. The brain is designed to protect you, not to empower you. It looks for danger, risk, potential failure, and it uses negative self-talk to convince you to play small, to stay safe. But playing small isn't safe, it's suffocating, and repeating the same negative beliefs over and over doesn't make them facts, it just makes them familiar. The good news is that any habit can be broken. But like any habit, it takes awareness, intention, and repetition to change it. First, you have to catch it. Pay attention to the words you're using when you talk to yourself. Would you speak to a friend the way you speak to yourself? If the answer's no, that's your first signal that something's off. That voice isn't you. It's the conditioning you've outgrown. When you hear yourself say, I'm not good enough, interrupt it. Don't just let it slide. Say out loud if you have to. That's not true. You're not arguing with reality. You're correcting a story that was never yours to begin with. Start replacing those thoughts with ones rooted in effort, growth, and truth. Instead of, I'm such a failure, say, I'm still learning. Instead of, I never get it right, say, I'm getting better every day. You're not lying to yourself. You're retraining your brain to see your progress, not just your mistakes. And no, this isn't about toxic positivity. It's not about pretending everything is great when it's not. It's about choosing language that moves you forward instead of dragging you down. You can acknowledge a struggle without labeling yourself as a failure. You can feel fear and still speak to yourself with courage. What you say in your head matters because your brain is always listening. Think of it this way. Your mind is like a garden. Negative self-talk is the weed that grows automatically. It doesn't need your permission. But positive, empowering self-talk, that's the plant you have to choose to grow. You have to water it daily. You have to protect it from the weeds. And over time, with consistency, it starts to take over. The more you feed your mind with thoughts that reflect your potential, the more your life begins to align with that reality. Changing your internal dialogue won't happen overnight. You'll have days when the old voice is louder, days when you slip back into the familiar pattern of tearing yourself down. That's okay. This isn't about perfection, it's about progress. Every time you catch the lie and replace it with truth, you're breaking the cycle. You're creating a new habit. And that new habit leads to a new level of self-respect, self-trust, and self-worth. You are not the voice that tells you you're not enough. You are the awareness that hears it and the power that can change it. The real you is strong, capable, and worthy. But that version of you doesn't get built in silence. It's built one thought, one choice, one affirmation at a time. Stop accepting negative self-talk as normal. Start recognizing it as the habit it is. Then break it one empowering thought at a time. Because once you change how you speak to yourself, you change how you see yourself. And that changes everything. What you tolerate becomes your reality. That statement is not just a quote you see online. It's a principle that governs your life every single day. The standards you set for yourself, the behaviors you allow from others, the choices you accept as normal, they're shaping your entire existence. If you're stuck in relationships where you feel small, jobs that drain your soul, habits that sabotage your health or peace of mind, it's not just bad luck or external circumstances. It's a reflection of what you've been tolerating for far too long. The truth is, we don't rise to the level of our dreams, we fall to the level of our standards. And if your standards are low, if you've trained yourself to believe that disrespect, self-neglect, or staying quiet to keep the peace is acceptable, then your life is going to reflect that. You'll find yourself in situations that feel safe, but slowly crush your confidence. You'll make excuses for people who don't value you. You'll accept crumbs and convince yourself it's a feast because deep down, you haven't yet decided that you're worthy of more. The reason most people don't raise their standards is fear. Fear of confrontation, fear of being alone, fear of change. They stay in the same patterns because they've convinced themselves that it's not that bad. But let's be honest, just because something isn't a complete disaster doesn't mean it's healthy. Comfort zones are often just survival zones in disguise. You're surviving, not thriving. You're existing, not living. And that low standard is keeping you locked in a version of life that's far smaller than what you're capable of. When you start to raise your standards, everything begins to shift. It's not about arrogance, it's about self-respect. It's about looking at the areas of your life and asking, does this align with who I want to become? And if the answer is no, you start making changes. You stop entertaining one-sided relationships. You stop showing up for people who drain you. You stop betraying yourself just to make others comfortable. Because the moment you decide that your peace, your energy, and your goals matter, that's when your life begins to transform. And don't misunderstand, this isn't just about how others treat you, it's also about how you treat yourself. Are you constantly talking down to yourself? Telling yourself you're not good enough, settling for mediocrity because it's easier than trying? That's part of your standard too. If your internal dialogue is toxic, then your actions will follow. You won't chase the job you want. You won't leave the relationship that's killing your spirit. You won't set boundaries because deep down, you don't believe you deserve better. But you do. You always have. You were born worthy. Somewhere along the way, life chipped away at that truth and replaced it with doubt. But it's still there, buried under the layers of tolerance and compromise and fear. You don't need to earn your worth. You just need to stop allowing the things that make you forget it. Raising your standards doesn't mean you suddenly have everything figured out. It means you refuse to keep accepting the things that are dragging you down. It means you start saying no, not because you're rude, but because you respect yourself. It means you start saying yes to growth, to challenge, to discomfort, because you understand that the person you want to become is on the other side of your current habits. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. Change always is. When you start raising your standards, some people won't like it. They'll say you've changed. And they'll be right, you have. Because you're no longer willing to dim your light for people who can't handle your brightness. You're no longer willing to silence your voice so others can feel more comfortable. You're no longer willing to shrink just to be liked. This is the cost of a better life. Not everyone will come with you. But the ones who do, they'll meet you at your new level, not your old one. And more importantly, you'll meet yourself at a new level. You'll begin to look in the mirror and see someone who stands for something. Someone who no longer breaks their own heart just to keep the peace. Someone who holds themselves to a higher standard, not because they're perfect, but because they know they're worth it. So look at your life. Look at what you've been tolerating. Look at what you've been accepting as normal, even though it drains your joy, your energy, your sense of self. Then ask yourself, what would change if I raised my standards right now? What kind of boundaries would you set? What kind of goals would you chase? What kind of relationships would you walk away from or walk toward? The quality of your life will never exceed the quality of your standards. If you want more, demand more, not from the world, from yourself. And when you do, the world will rise to meet you every single time. You train people how to treat you based on how you treat yourself. It's not just a nice quote to put on a Pinterest board. It's a reality that plays out every single day of your life. The way you carry yourself, the way you speak to yourself, the boundaries you set or fail to set, all send powerful signals to the people around you. And guess what? They're watching. They're learning. They're picking up cues about what's acceptable, what's not, and how much respect they need to show you based entirely on how much you show yourself. Think about it. If you constantly downplay your worth, apologize for existing, or shrink in every room you walk into, you're teaching people that you don't believe you deserve space. If you tolerate disrespect, if you let others speak over you or walk all over your time, you're telling them, I don't value myself enough to stop this. And if you don't value yourself, why should they? It always starts with you. Confidence and self-respect are not about arrogance or being better than others. They're about demonstrating that you have standards. Standards for how you will be spoken to, standards for what kind of treatment is acceptable, standards for what you allow in your space, in your energy, and in your life. When you honor those standards, without drama, without explanation, you make it clear this is someone who values themselves, and I need to step up if I want to be a part of their world. The reason so many people struggle with this is because they've spent years betraying themselves to make others comfortable. They've been conditioned to believe that being liked is more important than being respected, that keeping the peace is better than telling the truth, that staying small is safer than owning their worth, and that mindset becomes a trap. A painful, quiet trap that chips away at your confidence, one compromise at a time. You start telling yourself it's not that big of a deal when someone speaks to you with disrespect. You rationalize your silence in situations that require your voice. You justify staying in relationships, jobs, and environments that drain you just because you're afraid of what will happen if you leave. But the truth is, every time you choose their comfort over your worth, you lose a little more of yourself. You want to change your life? Start by changing the way you treat yourself. Speak to yourself with the same kindness and patience you give to the people you love. Stop tearing yourself down for things you haven't done yet, and start celebrating the fact that you're still here, still trying, still growing. Respect your own time. Set boundaries. Not to punish people, but to protect your peace. The moment you begin to treat yourself with unwavering respect, you'll notice how people shift around you. Those who only benefited from your lack of boundaries will fall away, and the ones who value you for who you are, not just what you can give, will step in. It's not always easy. There will be moments when you feel selfish for putting yourself first. There will be pushback from people who got used to the version of you that tolerated everything. But that discomfort, it's temporary. The confidence that grows from it, that's permanent. And here's the most powerful part. You don't need to announce anything. You don't need to scream, "I love myself now," from the rooftops. You just need to start showing up differently. Let your actions speak for you. You hold more power than you realize. The energy you bring into a room influences how others respond to you. When you believe you belong, others follow suit. When you walk with certainty, people pay attention. When you stop over-explaining and start standing firm, you send a clear message. I know who I am, and I don't need your validation to feel worthy. You want love that's real? Start loving yourself for real. You want respect from others? Start respecting your boundaries, your needs, and your values. You want support that feels genuine? Start supporting yourself through your own inner battles. You will never receive consistently from others what you don't first give to yourself. This isn't about becoming someone new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you to doubt yourself. It's about rising back into alignment with the truth you've buried under years of approval seeking, fear, and emotional survival. That truth, it's still there. And the moment you start treating yourself like you matter, the world around you will shift in response. Because when you change the way you treat yourself, you rewrite the rules for how everyone else is allowed to treat you. That's where your real power begins. Every small promise you keep to yourself builds self-trust. It sounds simple, but this is one of the most powerful truths you can carry with you. People spend their entire lives trying to gain trust from others, trying to prove they're reliable, that they can be counted on, but they rarely ask themselves the more important question, can I count on me? Because that's where real power begins. That's where true confidence is built. You want to believe in yourself? Then you have to start by trusting yourself. And trust isn't built through big declarations, it's built through small, consistent choices. Think about how many times you've said you'd do something and didn't follow through. You said you'd go to the gym and you didn't. You said you'd stop texting that person and you gave in. You said you'd wake up early and you hit snooze again. None of those moments are huge in isolation, but together they create a pattern, and that pattern becomes the identity you live from. So if you keep breaking promises to yourself, your brain starts believing that your words mean nothing, that you can't be trusted. And from there, how can you expect to feel confident, focused, or worthy? How can you believe in your future when your present is filled with broken commitments? But here's the good news. You can rebuild that trust. You can rewire your relationship with yourself. And you don't have to start with something huge. You just have to start small and stay consistent. Pick one thing, one promise. Maybe it's getting out of bed when your alarm goes off. Maybe it's going for a 10-minute walk. Maybe it's journaling for 5 minutes before bed. Whatever it is, commit to it, not for the outcome, but for the integrity it builds. Is because every time you do what you said you would, even when you don't feel like it, you send a message to yourself, I can trust me. That is where real confidence begins. Most people try to go too big too fast. They make a list of 10 things they're going to change, and by day 2, they've failed at all of them. Not because they're lazy, not because they're undisciplined, but because they're trying to repair years of broken trust with a week of effort. That doesn't work. Rebuilding trust is like building a muscle. It takes time, repetition, patience. You don't fix it with grand gestures. You fix it by showing up when it's boring, when it's hard, when no one's watching. And here's the part people miss. Those small wins, those tiny moments of follow through, they compound. They bleed into other areas of your life. You start to notice that when you keep one promise, it's easier to keep another. You start eating better, moving more, speaking up, asking for more, expecting more. Not because you're forcing it, but because now your brain believes in your ability to show up. You've proven to yourself through action that you're not the kind of person who quits on themselves. That you're someone who finishes what they start, that you're someone who does what they say, and from that foundation, you become unstoppable. It also creates emotional safety inside your own mind. When life gets chaotic, when relationships fall apart, when people let you down, you don't collapse, you don't spiral, because you know you've got you. You've built a version of yourself that's grounded, reliable, and strong. That's self-trust. That's emotional resilience. And it doesn't come from reading more books or watching more motivational videos. It comes from those small, quiet moments when you choose to follow through, when you do the thing, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's inconvenient, even when no one's clapping for you. There's no fast track to self-trust. You earn it. One promise at a time. And yes, you will slip up. You will miss a day. You will fall short. That doesn't mean you're broken. It means you're human. The key is what you do next. Do you quit on yourself again? Or do you pick the promise back up and keep going? Most people think failure destroys trust. But the truth is, how you respond to failure is what defines your trust in yourself. When you keep showing up, especially after you fall, that's when you get stronger. That's when the belief runs deeper. And here's what happens when you really build that trust. You become fearless. Not because life gets easier, but because you know you can handle it. You don't need to control every outcome. You don't need everyone's approval, because you've got something more powerful than that. Inner stability, a sense of self that can't be shaken by external circumstances. You walk into rooms differently. You speak differently. You move differently. Because now your confidence isn't based on what other people think. It's based on who you know you are. So start today. One promise, one step. Not to impress anyone, not to prove anything, but to rebuild the most important relationship in your life. The one you have with yourself. Keep that promise. Then another, and watch how everything starts to change. Because self-trust isn't the result of success, it's the cause of it. Build it brick by brick, and it will carry you through anything. Believing in yourself is not something you do once and never have to worry about again. It's not a light switch you flip and suddenly everything in your life is different forever. It's a decision, a choice you have to make every single day, sometimes multiple times a day, because life doesn't stop testing you. Doubts don't stop knocking on your door just because you've had one breakthrough. They come back. They come back when you're tired, when you're stressed, when something doesn't go as planned. They show up when someone criticizes you, when things take longer than expected, or when you feel like you're not making progress. And in those moments, that's when belief matters most. You don't need to feel 100% confident to take a step forward. You just need to make a decision not to quit on yourself today. That's what belief really is. It's a commitment to keep showing up even when your emotions tell you to hide, even when your fear screams louder than your courage, even when your past whispers, "You've failed before," remember? You look all of that in the face and you say, "I'm still going." It's easy to believe in yourself when things are going well, when you're getting compliments, when people are clapping, when the results are showing up. But those moments don't build real belief. Real belief is built when nothing is working, when the path feels lonely, and when the only voice you have is your own. That's the kind of belief that changes lives, the kind that isn't dependent on the outside world, but rooted deeply within. That's the kind that makes people unstoppable. And that kind of belief, it's a practice. Just like you train your body in a gym, you train your belief system through repetition, through action, through speaking to yourself with intention instead of reacting to every emotion that flows through you. Belief doesn't eliminate fear, it just reminds you that you're bigger than it. It doesn't mean you always know what to do, it just means you trust yourself enough to figure it out. And the more you choose to believe, especially when it's hard, the stronger that belief becomes. But if you're waiting to feel ready, if you're waiting until all the fear is gone, you'll wait forever. Belief isn't about waiting, it's about deciding. You decide that your dreams matter enough to pursue, even if people laugh. You decide that your voice is worth being heard, even if you shake while speaking. You decide that your time is now, not when you feel like it, not when it's convenient, now. And some days, that decision won't feel exciting. It will feel boring. It will feel like you're taking tiny steps that no one notices. But those are the days that count the most. Because that's how you build trust with yourself. That's how you show your mind that you can be counted on. That's how belief becomes your default response instead of doubt. You have to understand that your mind is always listening. Every word you say to yourself, every excuse you make, every promise you break, it all adds up. So start speaking to yourself like someone you care about. Stop waiting for external validation to give you permission. Stop replaying your failures as if they define you. They don't. Your willingness to keep showing up in the face of failure, that's what defines you. Some days, the belief will come naturally. Other days, it will feel like a fight. That's okay. What matters is that you never let a bad day turn into a belief that you're not good enough. You're going to mess up. You're going to feel insecure. You're going to doubt your abilities. But that doesn't mean you give up on yourself. It means you double down. You regroup. You remind yourself why you started. You put your feet on the ground. You take a breath and you move. Belief doesn't mean certainty. It means trust. Trust that even when things feel chaotic, you're capable. Trust that your future is worth the discomfort of growth. Trust that even if the road is messy, you're still moving in the right direction. And trust takes time. So be patient, but don't be passive. You are responsible for the story you tell yourself. And if that story is full of limits, it's time to rewrite it, because you're more than capable. You're powerful, but you'll never live like it if you don't believe it. Every morning, you get to make a choice. Believe in your fear or believe in your potential. Doubt your path or trust your journey. Shrink back or rise up. The choice is yours. Make it count. Every day, again and again, until one day, belief isn't a decision you make. It's just who you are.